So we are trying again from my personal Instagram handle because something went wrong and we were unable to connect to Nimish or to another ID which he had sent. So let's try with this. If it works out, it's fine. Hi Rishika. So we are just waiting to get connected with Nimish. Hope this thing works, because last time we tried from Boots and Crampons handle and it works out. Otherwise, all note. Nimish sent a request view problem in the PNC. Yeah, Nimish, I have accepted that. Hope you get online pretty soon. And yeah,
Hi,
finally.
sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Handle of BNC they were, so that's why I've connected here. Hopefully it works. So Nimish, first of all, welcome to our Thursday live series. We do it every Thursday 9 p.m. and we call stalwarts like you, whom we feel that they've done something which is very challenging, and and people would get inspired listening to that. So that's why you're here. So welcome. I know you've just reached home after
Nah,
your office thing. So please don't
thanks,
mind.
thanks, Romal, and sorry for everybody to keep you waiting. Not something should have happened, but yeah, because in the mountains we have to get up on time and leave on time, right? I think so. That's the mantra. But anyway, thanks, and happy to be on this. Thanks, Romal, a lot. And I before we start, I should tell everybody I did get very inspired with Rommel, and he also gave me a lot of tips. We met in Delhi during the lockdown, and I think so. I don't know if you told them that, and we had this long stroll in the night near the station. And so, yeah, thanks for inspiring me, Rommel, and appreciate this session we can have, and happy to share my experience with all of you. Yep.
So thank you so much, Nimish, for the kind words. If the feeling is mutual, we all understand that we all get inspired from each other. We keep pushing and we all learn each other, learn from each other's mistakes, learn from each other's experiences and, the kind of training. And to set the ball rolling, I'll just request you to please introduce yourself so that people know who's Nimish Parikh and the details, because
Okay.
rest of the things we'll cover.
I'll
So over
keep
to
it
you.
as I'll keep it short. So my name is Nimish. I'm based in Mumbai. Have a family business, but got into was always a trekker, especially in the Sahyadris, doing a lot of stuff in especially Matheran and the close by mountains. But got into trekking in 2017 when I went to Everest Base Camp, and I saw the mountain, and from that day, that's what I wanted to climb. And that's been my journey. I have a son who's 8, who was one of the main reasons I came back after getting hit by COVID at base camp, which I'm sure I will give you more details. But yeah, uh, been inspired by the mountains a lot, and that's what drives me at work and in my personal and professional life. So mountaineering is what I want to do now, and that's been my passion, along with playing a lot of football. Thank you.
Great. So, Nimish, tell me, you have such a busy life. Whenever I've met you, you've always been a rush, or, I have been there for some time, and you say, you've been traveling 50 kilometers, 60 kilometers, then you've reached, and then again, you had some lot of travel also involved. So, how do you manage, such a hectic business along with such a thing which is mountaineering? Unlike other things, mountain takes a lot of time, resources, preparation, and all. So, how do you balance it out?
So it's interesting, yeah, being in a family business, there is this both there's a lot of emotions involved, uh, and I'm sure everybody who works knows, culturally we are emotional people, and that takes a lot of to a time. But yes, I think so. When I step back, I really get to when I go to the mountains, I get to think about a lot of things. It's like connecting with yourself and knowing what's going right and wrong, and also it gives you a reality check. And also the other side is I get a lot of ideas. And the biggest learning is whenever I go to the mountains, I learn to delegate. That's how I've got
Yeah.
freer over the last few years, and I get more hands off. And yeah, I feel the company is more professionally run, so I feel I should spend more time in the mountains. But then that's a very sensitive topic in the office. But over the years, yes, I've been stepping back, and it's been helping me grow personally also.
Beautiful. Actually, because generally people get so attached to their work and all that
Mm.
ignore so many other aspects, be it health, be it recreation, or life in general. So the way you are balancing it out, that's amazing. So related to that, how do you train for this? Because as we said, family business, a lot of commitments, and Bombay, busy life. How do you manage your training apart from expeditions
Sure.
along with this?
So, it started off in 2000. Obviously, the base camp is something I'm sure most of us have are knowing this, being into, mountain lovers. But 2019 was the year, I think so. It started in 2018 rather, when I went to Mera Peak from Lukla, the other side to the Makalu range, and I didn't summit. And that's when I realized a lot. I couldn't summit, after, for whatever reasons. Because I was tired and we had certain challenges, but it learned, and I learned when to turn around, because I had to take a hard
Yeah.
call at 6,000 meters, my first 6,000 trek, to turn around. And then in 19 I went to camp 3 for 35 days. I had to stay, which I thought that's the base of climbing a mountain. So I thought I'll do a 7,000 meter, and they have this Everest training with one of the companies in the US, which I found on Google. And fortunately went to camp 3, came back, and that gave me at least an idea exactly how do you approach, especially the Khumbu. I think so. The most important thing in the Everest is the Khumbu, which is always tricky and trickier. And then, yes, the lockdown happened, and Mumbai is a busy life, but I think so. I could capitalize on the lockdown because I got to work from home,
Right.
and we stay in South Mumbai, which is the high rises. So go up. I took that opportunity of going up 80 floors, because you don't need to wear a mask in the steps in the corridor area. So go
Correct.
up and down 80 floors at least 3 to 4 times. But eventually I went to 500 floors. So I would say the journey of
Wow.
13 months or 15 months of preps was doing steps with the vest of 20 kgs, and then on the legs 5 kgs. I went progressively, 5 kgs, 10 kgs, 20. So it took me almost 9 months doing yoga every day morning for an hour religiously from 5 to 6, and then doing HIIT or running, whatever was permissible by law, I think so. And then doing the occasional long runs and cycles. So yeah, it was 12 to 13 workouts a week in Mumbai, and that's all that we get in the concrete jungle, right?
Correct. Absolutely. So, bottom line is you have to find ways and means within your limited
True.
resources to make the most out of it, right? So,
True.
whatever Nimish was mentioning, Camp 3, he was mentioning about Camp 3 of Everest, because
Yes.
he was, and the people who would not know, Nimish did Everest Camp 3 in 2019. And once we were climbing, we didn't meet him there, but then afterwards, once we came back, that's how we interacted and all. So, that was the connect. So before we come to your, 2019 experience, tell me how did this idea of Everest came into mind? Because we see a lot of fancy, especially among our people, Indians, that
Right.
Everest is the only thing. So how did that start? Tell me that.
I went to study. So the truth is, I went to study in 2000, or 7 years back to be precise, in one of the B schools overseas. And
Right.
it was a 1 week with a lot of what if scenarios. So I said I have to go and see this. That's when the first thing. And then in 2019, I 17, I went to base camp. And from Namche, there is a spot where you see, just before Namche, sorry, you get to see Everest, a kilometer at the
Yes.
permit center. And
Right.
from that moment I saw the mountain, this is all that I wanted to do for the next every day, I slept, ate Everest.
Wow. Great.
That's where and then once when you go for you go to Everest View Hotel from Namche, which is
Yes.
around an hour and a half hour walk. When you see it from there, then I was completely sold. I said this is the only mountain I want to climb. But again, back then I was a little more unfit, or rather way more unfit. Yeah, that's how
Right.
the journey started.
Wonderful. So, people who are listening to this have to understand this, because there are a lot of people who keep calling us and they say Everest. So the important point is, once you decide that it is Everest, then there's nothing else which can come in your life. It has to be eating Everest, sleeping Everest, because then
Sure.
only some thing like this would work.
True.
Otherwise it's damn difficult for things to work out. Yeah, on this I would like to say, people who want to ask any questions, feel free to write it in the comments box. We'll take it as and when, we have last 15 minutes, 20 minutes based on the questions. And I'm sure Nimish will be happy to answer them and share his experiences based on that. So feel free to do that. Apart from that, the recording of all this will be available on the YouTube channel. We'll share it, and tomorrow morning we'll get the same. Right. So this was about how it started for Everest, right? So before
True.
Everest, you went for Mera Peak. Mera Peak is what, 6,500?
It's 6,400 Mera Central. That's the easier one. But at
Okay.
6,200, after I think so 11 hours of climbing from the base from Kere to base camp and then to high camp, we could not do it because of we went in the wrong season in mid-June where the monsoon was
Right.
much, and because I thought it was a risk to my life. Whether the Sherpa was convinced we can go, but I could not convince myself. So I took a call to turn at 6,200 and came back, which was it was one of the most inspiring things because I learned to say no. And I would definitely, that was my first learning. And then the next day I went down to Camp 3 to do 1,000 meters more. And definitely when you read a lot about the Lhotse and the Khumbu, it's my
Right.
recommendation. It's if you have a chance to do it, definitely try and do that as a learning peak rather than doing one of these other mountains. I'm sure, I mean, Ahmedablam and, Himcholi, all of them are great mountains to practice, but this is hands-on. You get to go up and down the
Yes.
Khumbu, and that's a different experience. That's my
Great. So,
suggestion.
yeah, no, absolutely. So that's what I wanted to touch, especially this time, was that, you chose to do Camp 3 of Everest, and then rather than going for the summit push that year. So everything was, how did you plan to do this? That you should go ahead and do this.
So I did read again. I think so. I don't know if I was misguided, but Google said you need to do a 7,000 meter peak before, or they recommend a 7,000 meter peak. And then I spoke to after that a lot of companies, since I knew knew a lot of companies, and then they all said you should try and do a 7,000 technical peak. Because I didn't have technical training. I think so that's something important for you all to know. I
Yeah.
didn't do icecraft. I did not do any of that. But this was training to climb Everest. So they taught me all of that for 15 days on the Khumbu, which is a great learning experience. You're right out there. You're living on the glacier. You're experiencing blizzards, and you're doing the real world thing, not on one of these other mountains where you just do an icecraft every day on the same waterfall. The terrain changes here in the Khumbu every day or every week, which I'm sure Romal you'll be able to throw more light on that, how the Khumbu is. And one
Absolutely.
more
So,
thing, I think so. Just before I give it back to you, I want to get this book out. So this is the book. I have the day I got obsessed with climbing it in 2018. There are more than 50 books with the maps, and that's the kind of obsession I think so you require, because you got to mentally detach from the world and
yes.
get unemotional. So that's something I got from all these books, and this was one of the most inspiring books, the Mallory, The Conquest of Everest, which is on YouTube for everybody who wants to see it.
Great. Yeah. So, your books, your mindset, your food, your vacations, everything revolves around that, beyond all. So, tell us about your experience of Camp 3. How difficult was it? Were you expecting it to be that difficult, or was it easy once you went in 2019?
So 2019, we were lucky. We were one of the first climbers to go once the ropes were put in. So once they put
Okay.
in the ropes on May first week, we went in. So we did go in a little late at 11 o'clock, but we were only 4 people on the entire Lhotse face. So walking to Camp 3 is a little tiring, but the Lhotse face experience to me is one of a kind. I have not seen that, even though I've not climbed too many mountains, but for blue ice, having a 300 to 400 meters face is an amazing experience. And we could do it easily without too much of
Okay.
an effort because we didn't have a traffic jam. So we could go slow. But definitely that was one of the hardest thing I've done in terms of Jumaring continuously, because you just don't know when does it get over. And after you reach
Correct.
Camp 3, there's another 150 meters actually to reach the tent. So, but was there for not more than half an hour. The winds were too strong, and a lot of blue ice. When it falls, it kind of, you need a
Yeah.
helmet because it does hurt.
Yeah, that reminds me. In fact, my buddy, once we were doing a rotation for Camp 3, he got hurt and he had to turn back. Luckily, during our final push, this thing didn't happen. But then, yes, as you said, there are a lot of small bits, pieces of ice which keep falling because of people putting the crampons and all. So that's a great point again, that helmet and safety needs to be taken care of. So, what was the duration of that 2019? Your whole thing,
So
Camp 3 and back?
the whole duration from Lukla to Lukla, and I would say that because I did get stuck for 3 days at Lukla while coming back. So I would say
Right.
from Lukla to base camp, the thumb rule is I think so 8 to 9 days, and then
Okay.
we spent around 25 days at base camp. Uh,
Wow.
just training and then going up. So we went up Pomori one day, which is a 6,000 meters. So you do need to get acclimatized on at Camp 1.
Wonderful. Awesome. Because a lot of time people ask me that, how should we be training and all. And, the easiest answer to that I give is that, you've got to simulate the conditions which are there.
True.
And this can be, they can be nothing better than, being there, spending 25 days
True.
in the same settings. So that next time, once you're coming for the summit, then you know that, everything is
True.
familiar. Right?
I agree. Yeah.
So initially, was your plan for 2020? Because I thought we had
Sure.
discussed that you were saying after 19 you were planning to do 20.
So the plan was that, but I didn't train. So, by October, when I realized I had not trained too much in 2019, for the
Right.
2020 April, I said it's not worth doing it. And I
Oh,
and I didn't do anything, but I started early in 2020, which was good, and that helped me.
correct. And then, as such, 2020 there was COVID and no expeditions took off. So
Correct,
it was in a way.
but I could do some. So I think, yeah. Sorry, finish. Yeah.
No, no, that was the only thing I was mentioning.
So I took an advantage of that, and I think so. I did touch base with you. I could do Friendship Peak in October because in
Right.
October things opened, and that was a great. It's actually a great expedition for people in India. So those who want to go and are not sure, this is one of the best. It's a little technical. It's got a long turnaround time, and it's short. It's only 6 to 7 days from Manali, so you can also enjoy a little bit of your work from home in today's scenario. And it's a great expedition because it's a good 14 hours, 12 to 14 hours turnaround time. And Friendship Peak is a nice peak, 5,500 meters approximately. So I could do that. And then I did a Sandakfu alpine style. When I mean alpine style, we went off into Sikkim also. And we try to really push ourselves just with one porter, and that's
Oh,
what we're trying to do. So did just two treks, but a lot of workout in Mumbai.
great. So in fact, that reminds me. Next Saturday, I'm leaving for Friendship Peak. We have a team I'm leading there, so that'll be a good
Great,
thing to
great.
check with you. And yeah, Sandarpur pictures I remember. You had posted them, and those were superb. I mean, so tell us about that experience of yours.
So so I just went off to Sandakfu, just two of us, and we had one Sherpa, and definitely I would recommend just do it every day. The idea was to do 100 kilometers in 5 days walking, and it's one of the most beautiful experience because it doesn't have altitude, but it's pure endurance with 15, 16 kgs, and you got Everest on your
Wow.
left, and you got Kanchenjunga on the front. So that was really amazing, and yeah, my all my mountain photographs are there. Especially there's one snap, but the key is, I think so. More than that is how you do it and how you prepare the backpack and everything, rather than just saying, okay, I'll walk every day. There's a structure to it and there's a discipline. So that's important, and doing it yourself. I think so. The DIY. This was my first DIY trek. Otherwise, I'm a full fan of Trek the Himalayas, TTH, for all these Uttarakhand treks, which are great fun.
Right.
But a DIY is very different, even though it's simple. And I'm sure, Romal, you've done these simple treks also, but when you do it yourself, pitching your tent and cooking your food, it adds that little bit more flavor to it.
Absolutely, no doubt, and the amount of that reminds me in Uttarakhand, we were climbing in February this year. We had gone for a recce, and there were just three of us, and you don't have a big team once you're doing a expedition like this or a recce. So there we got stuck because there was heavy snowfall and we were left with no food. We had to turn back. We couldn't go to a summit because the weather was not permitting. So the risk level becomes high because lack of
Right.
resources and away from the roadhead. So a different level of challenge for sure.
True.
Great.
True.
So Nimish, now we come on to the major part which we want to focus for this year, Everest 2021.
Yeah.
How was it?
So, okay, so let me start off by saying it was a great experience to reach the base camp. Getting out of India, getting to Kathmandu was amazing because we were without a mask. And those who know Tamil, it's a live place, bustling with the bars and everything, and everything was open without a mask. So that freedom and happiness was there. But when we started the journey, the first 2 weeks to base camp, on a serious note, was amazing because there were a lot of trekking companies. So it was a typical, usual. The route was more quieter, but again, we were meeting, interacting with everybody, and it was fine. Americans, Africans, Europeans. But by the time we reached base camp, when we saw every day the number of permits being issued, it was scary
Yeah.
because we reached base camp and there were 408 permits, which was way higher than 2019, and this is like the record. So plus 97 permits of Lhotse, if I'm not mistaken. So because up to Camp 3, we go all together on the same route. So literally 500 climbers sleeping at base camp just to do those two mountains. It was a little scary, and that did kind of shake us up. Okay, there are going to be traffic jams. There's going to be lines. Mentally, you're also preparing yourself for that. So till base camp, that's a story. But after that, we did the Lhotse. I mean, not the Lhotse, sorry, the Lobuche Peak, Lobuche East, which is a
Right.
great expedition. A lot of people climb Lobuche East, an island peak, as a training ground. But we went up the peak, and it was a great 14-hour expedition right from high camp down to Lobuche. So we went up and then we came down, and it was tougher. But what I understand from Sherpa is one thing: the entire summit has moved. There's a gap. So climate change has changed the uh, entire mountain and then the terrain. So it has become it's melting more, and also the ice football fields were much longer. So it was a longer stretch. That's what I understand. So post 6,000, we came back to base camp.
Right. You know, and that's a very valid point because you had seen 2019, the news was so prominent about traffic jam. And this year, the number of permits were record numbers, much more than what were issued last time. And, as I was leading two batches, we also realized once we reached the base camp, it was, mess, so many tents, so many people. And I was, difficult to imagine how would things be. And on top of that, the worst part was, the COVID thing.
True.
Your experience, how was it,
Okay.
at the base camp? Because there were a lot of news coming in, a lot of things happening. So take some time and throw
Great.
in
Okay.
detail light on that.
I would love to. So so just to tell everybody, I had really a nice group. We made a friend, and I think so. What I learned most is climbing is a group activity. It's not an individual activity. So we are four of us, and I'm really proud to say my colleague who I thought I would climb Everest with, he summited after me infecting him with the COVID, and he stayed back in base camp. He's Harsh. He is on this. He's on this. I know that.
Right, right.
Uh, but let me come to my story. So we reached base camp, and as Romil said, it was crazy. A 1 kilometer long sea change of tents, and we didn't expect so many people on this year after COVID, but so many celebrities also. This year was a high number of people with different from the Bahrain and Qatar and Mike Posner and whoever, but we stayed in our tent. I think so. We did try and stay in our tent all the time. And even though that was there, tons of porters were going from camp to camp. And I think so. I don't know whether I got infected through a porter or in the line in the Kumbu, because we trained a lot on the Kumbu, went to Camp 1, Camp 2. And when I came down, so we 30th April, we came down from camp 29th April, sorry, we came down from Camp 3, just at the Jumat point, and then to Camp 2, and then to base camp, and then went down. And when I went down, I was coughing a lot. And that's when
Okay.
I think so I got infected. Because I got fever one day, but I didn't listen to the body. Went up to Lobuche and I got tested over there by one of the Dr. Hemant, who was there with us, and his wife, and I was positive. So I had to move away from my entire group. Took a chopper, said, okay, let's do a PCR test. And mentally, I was still not sure because a PCR test is the gold standard. But then
Yeah.
I knew partly that this thing is over, the dream and the everything you've put in, which was really painful. And yeah, I think when I went to Kathmandu, I did see what was happening, the reality of the world. And I know all of you in India know it because in May first week, Mumbai, Delhi, and India was bad. And Kathmandu was kind of worse with limited hospitals. But yes, I was positive, got my reports. They were really bad, and I had to be admitted to hospital because my lungs were infected badly. Uh, Took a time to find a hospital, but I was lucky, God's grace. I got everything without, because no influence, nothing worked. You just have to wait in line and get your number. And in a week's time, I was discharged but the medication, and they took care of me phenomenally. So I must say that absolutely nothing against the local people. They did everything they could. And then I spent a week to get or 10 days to get my negative PCR test, and definitely PCR report, sorry. And uh, I went with this Satori group, not propaganding them, but they personally took a lot of care with us because they had their own hotel. So they did take what I don't think so I would get this in Bombay, where someone comes in and gives you food and gets all your stuff. But yes, so that's the journey. But to answer your question, mentally, it took a lot out of me. So when I came back the third day from the hospital in the room, I said, I want to go back because I felt fit. The steroids had completely got me charged up. But yeah, internally, I was defeated, I would say. Externally, I was there, but internally, my systems were gone, I think so.
So, Nimish, something which you've been training, everything going fine, preparing, and then 2020 COVID came, you decided to shift to 2021. Again, training going fine, rotations going fine, Lubuche going as per plan. And then suddenly you realize you have started coughing, and then the test coming positive. So how was that kind of feeling? Because must have been a big setback. Right now, it's easy to say for you, but then
So
how
it
did you?
was, it was, so I think so it was a setback more because I think so so people say, right, the journey is more important. And I've actually written a lot in the 10 days that I was alone when I was with COVID, especially in the hospital for those 7 days. You kind of think through it. You don't know how
Yeah.
bad the disease is still because until you get it, you don't know how bad. You've only read about it. But then when I thought through, I did feel two things. The summit is important. It's not just the journey and training. I agree. 15 minutes of fame, is that what you want on top of the world? No, it's just that that's what you've trained for. And yes, there are positives. When you reflect today, you've trained. You see a transformation in your body, and that's the best thing. So the highlight was I did reflect, and I was proud of the training. And I think so. Everybody should train, irrespective of whether you're going to climb Everest or you're going to be climbing a Sandakfu or anything. So my biggest learning was the body can adapt to anything, and can get fit. And mentally, it took me 2 weeks. I did get emotionally. I broke down the most in my life I've ever done in the last I don't know how many years. So yeah, emotionally, it's a grind that I will take time to come out still.
Do you think you can ever come out of it? Because, so many things involved. I tell you, it looks easy to say that, it's all about the journey and all, but heart of heart, you understand that, what you have gone
So
through.
I think so. The family, the son, he's 8. He drives me. But one interesting thing I should tell all, that everybody says the journey is important and you should come
Yeah.
back and all that. He was the only one that when I got discharged said, you have to go back. You have to finish it. So the kids and
Wow.
children really are more inspirational, I think so, because they don't get it. They are still very simple, and they think that's where you have to go. And I would love to just surround myself with that kind of positive energy, and that's what I need. And I did get it. So and again, when you have my son was there, so I said definitely, I don't want to risk it. And also you kind of learn that you can come back with this disease. You need clear lungs to climb. So my focus is to clear my lungs and get not damaged kidney. So that's the compensation now, and that's what I'm focusing on. But I was proud because the one thing I should say that I did infect my friend Harsh. After 2 days, he got positive and he stayed there for 10 days. And I felt bad because I said, shit, I've infected someone else who's also dream I don't want to shatter. But he fought it and he submitted. So I think so. Partly he did what I had to do, and he submitted it for me. So that's my happiness at the end of the day I take away from my group.
Absolutely. That's great. Yeah, so many things happened. So tell me, once you look back, how was 2019 Everest different from 2021?
So
Just from the organize. Yeah,
the
sure.
2021 COVID, the only thing and the regret that we have is the support of the government wasn't there. So there was a lot of denial of COVID. At least before me, there were 35 cases. Nothing against the local Sherpas and anyone, but I think so. If it was handled a little better, Rommel, and since I think so, you're more into the entire grapevine of the system, and definitely you're connected. That was the only thing, and we didn't even have test kits earlier. So my
Yeah,
only one recommendation again at your level is if this can be taken care of in any of the expeditions, just not Everest, I would say anywhere where a little bit of more focus on the personal health of having stuff, it helps. But to come to answer your question, 2019 was, there was music, there was people going from tents to tents. I think so. The entire interaction is more important. So
yeah,
especially in the tea shelters, that was not different in either of the 21 and 19 because we did meet a lot of other climbers. Even though it was less commercial, less people were on the route. Definitely, too many tea houses were empty. But in base camp, we were like secured with a rope. So it was sad to see because everyone had ropes around their campsite. You could not go to the left, you could not go to the right. But here in 19, it was just, yeah, it was a little different extreme. One night, there was also live music, and it's some people say it's a banana republic now. It's a commercial city. But yeah,
correct.
that's how Everest is. The base camp now.
Yeah, indeed. The whole feel of base camp is you get to meet so many people all around the world, making new friends, learning from so many of them. And yeah, this year was different because, as I said, I was also on the base camp. I had promised you that we would meet at
Yeah,
base camp, but then I didn't have the guts to meet you because I knew that, we were coming from
true,
outside. You had so many things at stake. We didn't want to get infect someone because of, our
true.
carelessness. So that's why I couldn't meet Amit sir, who's the principal
Yeah,
there. He's my batchmate. So he had said that, let's meet. I said, no way, because we don't want to be culprit just in case,
right, right,
something goes wrong. And that's why I couldn't meet you as well,
right.
thinking that, if in fact. So
But
yes, the whole thing was different. Yeah,
there was one thing common. I don't know. We both had a storm. I mean, we had Fani in 2019 in May
right,
first week when our tents got blown up at Farm Camp 3, and there was some damage at Camp 2. And the same thing was this year.
right.
So that's the trend, and the weather is getting more unpredictable. So 2000, but I must say, there was the Kumbu was very tough this year. That was one thing
Oh,
which changed completely between we had one ladder when we went up, and then the second time when we came down, there were six ladders. And I understand towards the end of the season there were almost 20, 24 ladders. So it
wow.
was a dangerous place, and it's become much longer. and camp 1 to camp 2 also was much longer. So things are changing fast.
Right. So anybody wants to do it as early as possible before it gets worse than this, right?
I would say
Right.
definitely, but try and yeah, and think so. There is a certain amount of luck because a lot of people got the May 12th
Yeah,
window
yeah.
to summit, and the weather just kept turning around. So even though the pundits and all the gurus tried to say that you'll have great weather, things changed very quickly, which is why it went on till I think so June 1st, the last summit this year.
Correct. So that's why, there was a lot of things wherein people got stuck at camp 2, at times camp 3 this time. So that was a big concern, and especially the one window which was available May end, which was very, very unlikely, people weren't expecting. So a lot of patience also gets tested, once you are there
Wow.
ready on for 1st May that you would climb, and then
I think so.
that's the,
Two things I recommend people is take a diary to write because you do go a little crazy and bonkers when you're there for like almost a month. And as Romal saying, the waiting game is hard and the tenacity in you comes out completely that time. So it is you need to keep yourself occupied in different ways for certain days. And when it's a blizzard and when the other things that you have to figure it out. So I agree with Rommel. That's you need to train your mind also at the same time. How do you stay calm and not just lose patience and say I want to go back? Because a lot of people do that at times.
correct. So Nimish, tell me this, this is a difficult one though. 2021 is a COVID year, so many cases happened. COVID was there before we started the climb and all. Did it ever come to your mind that, you should have skipped this year?
Not really. I think so. I
No?
this year no. I was very clear. I wanted to climb this year, and I think so. The lockdown helped me train and get really fit in Mumbai in whatever I could do. I think so. I did the most, especially with the work from home. Completely use it by training. Get those extra hours because everybody in a metro city or working who travels really gets exhausted in Mumbai or Delhi or any of these metros. So yes, I didn't
Correct.
really think of postponing it.
No, no, that's a great one because for a thing like Everest, there are so many variables. You never know that, you'll get everything's in place, then only you'll go and climb. Sometimes your health is not supporting, you get injured, or, training is not up to the mark. So you cannot keep postponing it indefinitely that,
True.
we'll try next year, this thing has gone not as per, the desires. Okay, now tell me this. What about your training on the base camp for this year? How many rotations you did? What was your rotation like? If you can throw light on that as well.
So some people don't consider Lobuche East as a rotation, but some
Right.
people do. So it's a 50-50 question. But that's one thing I would recommend. So to avoid going on the Khumbu too much, we kind of do Island Peak or Lobuche East. When we chose Lobuche East, which is a 6,000-meter peak, and it was hard. I, I would not say it's an easy expedition standalone. So we did that one, came back to base camp.
Okay.
And we did train 2 to 3 times a lot on the Khumbu. So we went up the Khumbu from
Right.
crampon point to a certain level, which is I think so halfway till the football field, and then also we had a couple of more times on the with standalone walls on the ladders and
Nice.
everything. So
Right.
so that's near the base camp only to get familiar with your gear because again it takes a couple of days to get used to the gear which you've not used too much. So that and then we finally after the puja went up, stayed one night at camp one. It
Okay.
took me 9 hours on the Kumbu with and the worst was initially itself at 3 o'clock we had like a 45-minute traffic jam on the first
Oh shit.
I saw also, mentally you already started saying, okay, welcome to the world of traffic jams. So that one picture stuck in all our head, which was taken in 2019 on the summit. And then we stayed at Camp 1 one night, went off to Camp 2 for 3 nights. And after
Okay.
the second night, we went up to Camp 3. We could make it
Okay.
only to the Jumar point, unfortunately,
Okay.
because after that we got bad weather So, and someone had one Sherpa had just fallen and broken his leg and everything. So we did turn around just after that, and we came back. So that was the hard.
Right.
And again, the weather keeps changing, so we had to turn around, and we came back to Camp 2. So that was our second rotation, and most of the people had done 2 this year. That's what I remember. Not many people
Right.
slept at Camp 3, and not many people went twice up. So that's changing. Again, people are trying to avoid the Khumbu because the ice fall
Rotations.
is moving too fast. Yeah. Personally, I would not do it. I would not go twice. I would just try and do one longer rotation, which is now the new trend. I think so, or from what I
Okay.
read and met people at Camp 2.
Great. So, Nimish, based on my experience, I've realized that, once you are not able to achieve something, then you work harder and you learn more in the bargain, thing. For example, once I look back, I see 2015, I was trying for Boston Marathon qualification at Mumbai. I couldn't. So I really slogged hard, hard, hard. And that's how in 2016 I could qualify. But once I did that, it was never any appetite to learn more. That
Right,
thing comes.
right.
So, do you also think like that? That had you reached the top, you won't have done much more, and now you have that zeal to do more because you have to, give it another shot. Does it come
So
to your mind?
I know I need to work hard more. I know where I didn't, and because you kind of see it with your friends around, and also I think personally I knew certain shortcomings, but definitely yes, I will go back. And one dream I have, which is to climb Ahmedablam. So that's my ultimate. It's the most beautiful mountain to me in the world, and so while coming back, the only thing in the hospital, I made up my mind to climb Ahmedablam. And in the first thing when I got well in Kathmandu, I went to the store and got the poster, and that's there. So my entire house. So I must
Right.
tell you how obsessed I am. My entire house, my entire office, all the meeting rooms, there are posters of Everest everywhere. So I kind of want to see it every day, and I think so. I love to be obsessed to ensure that. So Ahmedablam, yes, that's what's on the cards, and then Everest. I think so. That's would be the plan.
Amazing, man. Too good interacting, and it's always fun. Now we'll take the questions because otherwise people won't
Sure.
feel. Otherwise, I'll just keep doing it. So we'll start from here. Nisha wants to know, whether the ascent or descent from the summit, which one is more challenging?
I would say the descent is more challenging because you will ascend mentally. It's easy to you go up. You have a little more energy and focus. While coming down, it's always more trickier because you kind of sometimes even lose focus, and it is always tougher to come down and have a little balance. That's my opinion. And also, a lot of other people say the descent is where the challenge is. That's the that's what the mountaineers always say. That's where the maximum accidents happen.
Again from Mumbai. So Sushil sir wants to know: is it possible for a person to go to Camp 2 in this year, then Camp 3 next year, and summit? So does it exist? Camp 2 as well.
I would recommend, Sushil sir, that combine Camp 2 and Camp 3 because once you're staying at 6,400 meters at Camp 2, Camp 3 is not where we would sleep there. No one really sleeps there. They really touch it and come back. So it's more like an acclimatization. It's a great trek. I would recommend to do it in one shot and then take a decision to climb Everest or not.
Great. So there's another question from Vipul. He wants to that since all people don't get the opportunity of Everest, which is a similar summit in India.
Okay, I'm not that qualified to answer this question, but I do know in India we have a couple of 7,000 meters, and I would suggest to connect with someone like Romil to answer that. Which are the 7,000 meters in India because that's the maximum that we have.
Yeah, yeah. So
Sakapan
7,000,
Peak, or you have Comet.
absolutely. Yeah, so Comet is doubtful because people say there is a big crevasse which is there close to the summit. So most of the summits don't take place on Comet. But then yes, Satopant is one, and there's another one which we did in 2018 as part of our preparation for Everest, which is Mount Kun. Again, it's beautiful. The best part with Kun is that the feel of Lhotse face, that blue eyes and
Yes.
going on that face, that gets replicated once you're doing Kun. So we would strongly recommend anybody going for Everest should try for Kun. So Gunjan wants to know, can we directly plan Everest or should we pitch up camps in between? So yeah, Gunjan must have come to know by now.
So there are 4 camps, Gunjan, and typically base camp is what we all spend a lot of time at, and then we really do camp 1 and camp 2. Camp 1 is not a place to stay; it's just an interim camp on your first rotation. But camp 2 is somewhere where it's really established with all the facilities, and it's also safe. It's right below the Everest, which is away from ice falls and avalanches. It's much safer relatively than camp 1.
Yeah, so Harsh says they were 124 people for Lhotse this year. Wow,
Yes.
that's a lot.
Thank you for
And
correcting me.
Lobuche East was tougher than Everest. So wow, that bad, huh? I'm surprised.
It was hard. I would not deny it. And he submitted Everest. So I really would give him the
Yeah,
benefit of the doubt on that one.
yeah, because in our times, yeah, we also did Lobuche East, but then, it was pretty okay, not too difficult. And other one is just one sec.
What is the
Proud of you, Nimish. Ascent, descend, show us your house.
I think so. There's a
He wants to
question.
see the Ahmadabalam poster.
Yeah, it's in the room, but I think so. There's a
Correct.
question on what is the maximum and ascent
Yeah,
on
maximum,
Everest.
minimum. Correct.
So there are, if I can answer your question, it's 600 meters a day. The thumb rule is when we are climbing from Lukla to the base camp, and then we also spend time once we cross a certain elevation like 3,000 and 4,500, which is at Dingboche and Namche, to have an acclimatization walk. And on the glacier, we need to again spend time at Khumbu. So I think so. The idea is to spend. I mean, not on Khumbu on base camp. The idea is to sleep and stay on Khumbu to let your body get really acclimatized and then start taking treks on different mountains. So it doesn't have to be Everest. There are a lot of mountains around, but you need to go up to 600 meters or 700 meters and then come back down. So you go high and you sleep low. The thumb rule.
Correct. So Eva wants to know, do you think mountaineering as a sport isn't taken as seriously as it should be?
Oh, tough. I mean, good question. It should be taken seriously. It's your life, right? At stake at the end of the day, and we in India do not have the facilities for all, or even if it's there, we don't know about it. That's another way to put it. So I would strongly recommend we should take it seriously as a sport if you're really doing it to climb high or to do any technical mountains.
Absolutely. So on these lines, once I was climbing, we were coming down, we realized there were a lot of evacuations which were taking place, and sadly, all the evacuations were of Indians. That's the sad part because people are not training, and I firmly believe if you have a difficult life, you don't get adequate time, then there's so many other mountains do that. Why do you want to go unprepared? And
True.
there have been so many Indians who have died like that, apart from other people. So I strongly feel avoid it if you are not getting that much amount of time.
So
What
just
should be
to
the level? Sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
Nimish.
addressing that question, the fitness level. So
Yeah.
let me just build on what Rommel said. And again, I'm too amateur a mountaineer, and I call myself an amateur mountaineer. So when I met, just for everybody, I met Nims Dai at Monjo at the Sagar Mata
Checkpost.
National Park checkpost. So I said, meet Nims. Nims Dai, meet Nims, the amateur mountaineer and the legend. So he but yeah, I do consider myself a trekking geek, a lover. But yes, I'm getting to be a mountaineer. Now, to answer your question on fitness, two things. Indians, he's right. Rommel, we do not train that much. And on this year, 2021, I saw a lot of Indians being pulled by two Sherpas and being harnessed in the front and behind. So I don't recommend to ever climb Everest like that because you can't be pulled up a mountain, and that's any mountain. It's not just Everest. Don't try and do something your body cannot do. So yes, we had some people in our group, unfortunately, in that space, and yes, it's hard because you're also putting the Sherpa's life into a jeopardy. So
Exactly.
it's not just you; it's the other person also. But you
Okay,
need to get
so
fit. So I would say
absolutely.
focus on your food, diet, and be disciplined. If you're doing it every day at 5, be obsessed. If you have to sleep at 9, sleep at 9. And that's the sacrifice which we all just need to do it.
True that. So there's another question, how do people poop on Everest? People would have this question, many of them.
So yeah, so I'm sure everybody knows peeing in a pee bottle is easy. Both, for male and females, a mountain doesn't differentiate, both of a male or female. But yes, we do poop. There are tents at base camp and at camp 2. But if it's at the other places, because I've not been there. But what I understand is you just do it in the open, and your summit suit, which I have also, has a zip where you can just do it. And some people carry poop bags just for the now the new trend is to bring it down also at times. It's that's what they want to try and keep it clean.
Yeah, in fact, I remember once our team was going, we had those bags given and the names written with a black marker so that, anybody living there, he is the culprit. So that's true. That's required, I think, for long term. And Harsh wants to know how was the food on Everest?
Oh, it was fantastic. That's one thing I should tell all of you all. The chocolate cake and apple pies from Lukla to base camp is the best in all the tea shelters. Even though a lot of the cafes were closed this time, especially the German bakery at Tengboche. But yes, we did get it at all the other places. And at base camp, fortunately, whoever I went with last time in 19 and now, besides the dal bath, they make you everything you want, from the pizzas to the Chinese, and we had aloo paratha and dahi, which is my highlight because we all are Indians. That is one of the
Right.
best things to eat at Camp 2 with one of the and so I would not say you need freeze dry fruit. Freeze dry is more just on the camp for, but
Yeah.
yes, otherwise it's not a problem at all.
Great. So Sushil sir, Sushil, I'll share his number with you. He's inviting you
Sure.
for lunch or dinner in
Thank you
Mumbai.
so much. Appreciate. I will take that up definitely. Really, thank you for that. A half marathon runner, physical. Yeah, I have run a half marathon. I'm not a marathon runner. Just for all of you to know, so I could not walk in 2012 properly. I have ankle issues. I have torn tendons, which I've got fit over 5 years on doing physiotherapy. So I have done intense physio, and then I started climbing in 2017. So definitely, if you run a half marathon, my recommendation, if you do it in 2 hours, you're good. Plus minus 5 minutes does not make a difference. But yeah, that's good enough.
Amazing. So Nimish, yeah, Sushil sir, I was mentioning he also aspires to climb Everest. He was on the base camp trek this time. But then,
Okay.
yeah, so that's why he's inviting you and taking all the gyan from you once you go and meet him. I'll
Most
connect with
welcome.
you.
Definitely. Definitely.
So great, Nimish. Thank you so much for your time. I know you've had a hectic day again today, as
No,
always.
no. Talking about the mountains and Everest is always a pleasure. Thank God you didn't push me and talk too much on the summit. I would have cried here also, and I have no shame in doing that because it's hard to hold back these summit tears. But the joy of being there for 40 days, I would definitely say that it was amazing. Everyone who can get a chance, please do base camp. Rommel is the best person. They had a yoga session at base camp, which is why I wanted to go meet him. That's something which was really good. Please definitely try and do that with him. And otherwise, anyone wants to connect with me, happy to share my experiences with you all. Thanks, Rommel, for having me. Appreciate it.
No, no, thanks so much,
Cheers.
Nimish. All the best, guys. Bye bye.
Bye.
So, guys, good night. Bye, Jai Hind.
Jai Hind.